The Silent Guardians. The vast chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as first speaker Zorthal activated the holographic display. The blue-green planet appeared, floating serenely against the backdrop of stars. Earth, as its inhabitants called it. For nearly 2 centuries, the Council had been sending carefully crafted messages toward this isolated world, hoping to welcome humanity into the galactic community. And for nearly 2 centuries, they had received nothing but silence in return. "Another transmission has been dispatched," announced Zorthal, his translucent fingers gliding through the projection. "This marks our 173rd attempt at contact." Council Representative Villa Nix of the Ardani Confederation clicked her mandibles in frustration. "Perhaps we should accept that they are either unable or unwilling to respond. Many developing species require millennia before achieving sufficient technological advancement for interstellar communication." "No," interjected Elder Kremok, the oldest member of the Council. His 6 eyes blinked in sequence as he leaned forward. "Our long-range scans indicate they have possessed the necessary technology for at least 8 decades. They receive our transmissions. They simply choose not to answer." Across the vastness of space, on the blue-green planet that had captured the Council's attention, Director Ilara Chen stood before the United Earth Defense Council in Geneva. At 43, she had spent her entire career in the Department of Sinological Studies, preparing for this moment. "They're growing impatient," she said, gesturing to the data stream displaying the Council's latest transmission. "This message contains more direct language than previous attempts. They're beginning to question our silence." General Santos leaned back in his chair, his weathered face betraying no emotion. "Good. Let them wonder. That was always the strategy." Ilara nodded, though her expression revealed her unease with the approach. "The Observation Division confirms that the Council represents 27 species across 15 star systems. Their technology exceeds ours in certain areas, particularly in biotechnology and quantum communication, but our defensive and propulsion systems appear to be more advanced. A result of different evolutionary paths," noted Dr. O'Keefe, the Council's chief xenobiologist. "Their species evolved primarily through cooperation, while we evolved through competition and conflict," Ilara finished. "Which is precisely why we adopted the Silent Protocol 2 generations ago. When humanity had first detected the alien transmissions 80 years prior, the initial reaction had been jubilation. Humanity was not alone. But as linguistic experts decoded the messages, military strategists and sociologists urged caution. The alien coalition called themselves the Galactic Council, a collective of species that had expanded through peaceful cooperation. Their history contained virtually no equivalent to humanity's bloody past of wars, conquest, and competition. What if they find us threatening? A prescient analyst had asked during those early days. What if our history of conflict terrifies them? Thus, the Silent Protocol was born. Humanity would listen but not respond. At least not until they could approach from a position of strength. Not out of hostility, but from the pragmatic understanding that first impressions would be crucial. "The preparations are complete," Ilara continued, bringing up schematics of the starship Artemis. "The diplomatic vessel is ready. The crew has been training for this mission for 5 years. I believe it's time to break our silence." The Council members exchanged glances. After decades of preparation, the moment of decision had arrived. "Very well, Director Chen," said President Adayemi, her voice carrying the weight of authority. "You will lead the first contact mission as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council. May you represent us with wisdom." 3 weeks later, the Artemis approached the designated neutral meeting point, a space station orbiting a gas giant in a nearby uninhabited system. Ilara stood on the bridge, watching as the massive structure grew larger on the view screen. Its elegant organic design spoke of a different approach to engineering than humanity's more angular, functional aesthetic. "They've detected us," reported Commander Takahashi. "Multiple sensor scans, non-military frequencies." Ilara nodded. Open a channel using the protocols we decoded from their transmissions. The view screen flickered, then revealed a chamber filled with diverse alien forms. Some humanoid, others utterly foreign to human experience. Crystalline structures, vapor-like entities contained in hovering fields, and beings composed of what appeared to be living metal. "This is Ambassador Ilara Chen of Earth," she said clearly. "On behalf of humanity, we acknowledge your invitations and extend our greetings in return." A murmur spread through the council chamber. First speaker Zorthal moved forward, his translucent form shimmering with bioluminescent patterns. "Earth has responded," he said, his translator converting his harmonic speech to English. "After centuries of silence, we welcome you to the galactic community." "We thank you for your patience," Ilara replied diplomatically. "Our silence was not meant as discourtesy. We were preparing." "Preparing?" questioned Vela Nix, her mandibles clicking rapidly. "For what purpose?" Before Ilara could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. A council technician rushed forward, chittering urgently to Zorthal. "3 vessels have entered the system," Zorthal announced, his bioluminescence pulsing with concern. "They matched the signature of Morgak raiding ships. They must have tracked our diplomatic vessel." The Morgak, the only species that had rejected council membership, preferring to exist on the fringes as raiders and pirates. The council had contained their activities, but never eliminated the threat entirely, preferring containment to conflict. "How long until your defense force arrives?" Ilara asked calmly. "The nearest patrol is 3 hours from this position," replied Zorthal. "We must evacuate the station immediately." Ilara exchanged a glance with Commander Takahashi, who gave a slight nod. "That won't be necessary, first speaker," she said. "The Artemis is equipped with defensive capabilities. We can protect the station until your forces arrive." "A diplomatic vessel with military capabilities." Velanix clicked in alarm. "This violates council protocols." "With respect, Representative," Ilara replied, "Earth is not yet part of your council. Our protocols differ from yours." "Commander, deploy defensive systems." The Artemis moved into position between the approaching raiders and the station. What happened next left the council representatives staring in astonishment. The human vessel released a swarm of autonomous defense drones that quickly established a defensive perimeter. When the Morgak ships opened fire, energy shields absorbed the impacts while the drones executed precision countermeasures that disabled the raiders' weapon systems without destroying the vessels. "Remarkable," whispered Elder Kremok. "They neutralized the threat without casualties." Within 30 minutes, the Morgak raiders had been disabled and secured. 2 hours later, when the Council Defense Force finally arrived, they found the human ship calmly waiting, the situation well in hand. The diplomatic reception that followed was tense. Council species gathered in small groups, casting nervous glances toward the human delegation. Ilara stood with her team, acutely aware of the impression they had made. Zorthal approached, accompanied by Elder Kremok. "Your intervention was effective, Ambassador Chen. Though it raises many questions we're prepared to answer," Ilara replied. "Humanity has always understood that the universe might not be entirely peaceful. Our history shaped us to be prepared for all possibilities." "Your history," Elder Kremok said thoughtfully. "Yes, we would very much like to learn of your development. Our preliminary observations suggested a species prone to internal conflict." "We don't deny our past," Ilara acknowledged. "Humans evolved through competition, which later extended to conflict. But these same traits drove our rapid technological advancement and eventually taught us the value of cooperation." "A dangerous evolution path," commented Velanix, joining the conversation. "Competition leads to aggression, aggression to destruction, or to innovation and resilience," countered Ilara. "Different paths can lead to the same destination. Your species evolved through cooperation, ours through challenge and response. Both approaches have their strengths and limitations." Elder Kremok's eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep contemplation among his kind. Perhaps there is wisdom in diversity. The Morgak have troubled our borders for generations. Our cooperative approach has struggled to address species that reject harmony. Humanity doesn't seek conflict, Ilara emphasized. But when faced with it, we don't hesitate to defend ourselves and others. We remained silent all these years not out of disrespect, but because we wanted to approach you as equals, not as supplicants or threats. And you have certainly demonstrated your capabilities, Zorthel observed. His bioluminescence patterns shifted to what Ilara's cultural briefings identified as a pattern of cautious acceptance. The Council must discuss your unique approach, but I believe this incident, while unplanned, has provided valuable insight into what humanity might contribute to our community. As the reception continued, Ilara circulated among the alien representatives, aware that humanity's first impression had been made. They had revealed themselves not as the peaceful, naive species the Council might have expected, but as capable defenders with a pragmatic approach to potential threats. The path ahead would require careful diplomacy. Humanity's competitive nature and preparedness could be assets to the Council, or sources of fear. Everything would depend on how they balanced their strength with restraint, their independence with cooperation. The silent protocol had ended. The era of humanity's integration into the galactic community had begun on their own terms. Proving ground. 6 months after humanity's dramatic introduction to the Galactic Council, the Terran Embassy on Harmonium, the Council's central world, remained a source of curiosity and concern for most Council species. Unlike the flowing, organic structures preferred by Council architects, the embassy featured clean lines, functional spaces, and subtle defensive capabilities that weren't advertised but weren't exactly hidden either. Ambassador Ilara Chen had spent these months navigating the complex waters of interspecies diplomacy. Today, she faced another challenge as she met with the Council's Integration Committee. Earth's application for provisional membership continues to present unique considerations, stated Committee Chair Xandor, a feathered being whose species communicated through both vocalization and plumage displays. His current pattern indicated diplomatic discomfort. We've complied with all standard requirements, Ilara pointed out. Cultural exchanges, technology assessments, non-aggression pacts. Yes, agreed Representative Vela Nix, who had become something of an advocate for humanity despite her initial wariness. Yet concerns remain about Earth's military capabilities and your species' readiness to act independently. What remained unspoken but understood was the fundamental difference in philosophy. Most Council species evolved in environments that favored cooperation over competition. Their societies developed through consensus, their technologies through gradual refinement rather than revolutionary leaps. Humanity's history of wars driving technological advancement, of competition spurring innovation, remained deeply unsettling to many. We understand these concerns, Ilara acknowledged, but consider that diversity of approach strengthens the whole. Different evolutionary paths bring different strengths. The meeting concluded with a compromise. Earth would receive provisional member status with certain restrictions, limitations on military deployments beyond the Sol system, oversight of human expansion efforts, and regular reviews of compliance. As Ilara left the Council chambers, her aide Maya Okafor approached with an urgent message. Ambassador, we've received a priority communication from Captain Reza Ahmadi. The Sentinel detected a distress signal from Outpost Epsilon 9. Ilara frowned. Epsilon 9 was a research station in a remote sector, staffed primarily by Andari scientists studying stellar phenomena. Council emergency services are responding. That's just it, Maya replied. They're not. At least, not effectively. The outpost is under attack by unknown forces. The Council Defense Force has dispatched vessels, but they're following standard protocols, establishing a perimeter, attempting communication, waiting for diplomatic specialists. How far is the Sentinel from the outpost? 2 hours at maximum speed. Ilara made a swift decision. Contact Captain Ahmadi. Tell him to proceed to Epsilon 9 immediately. Humanitarian assistance only. No offensive actions unless absolutely necessary. Ambassador, Maya cautioned, this exceeds our provisional authority. The Sentinel is a patrol vessel with military capabilities, entering an active conflict zone. People are dying. Maya, Ilara interrupted. Council protocols are getting in the way of an effective response. We'll deal with the political fallout afterward. The Sentinel, one of Earth's newest vessels, had been conducting a sanctioned patrol near the borders of Council space when it detected the distress call. Captain Riza Ahmadi, a veteran of Earth's Space Force, had immediately notified both Council authorities and the Terran embassy. Now, receiving the ambassador's instructions, he addressed his crew. We're proceeding to Epsilon 9 at maximum speed. Tactical, prepare defensive systems and medical evacuation protocols. Communications, maintain an open channel to Council forces in the area. We're going in as a humanitarian mission, but be prepared for resistance. 2 hours later, the Sentinel dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Epsilon 9 system. The tactical display immediately showed the situation. 3 unknown vessels of aggressive design were systematically destroying the outpost's defenses, while Council ships maintained a perimeter at a safe distance, following their standard non-confrontational protocols. Scanning attackers, reported Lieutenant Commander Park. Unknown configuration. Heavy weapon systems. No match in Council databases. Open a channel to the Council command vessel, ordered Ahmadi. The view screen activated to show a Thorian commander, their crystalline features arranged in a pattern of distress. Human vessel, this is Commander Ithlar. You are not authorized in this conflict zone. Please withdraw to a safe distance. With respect, Commander, Ahmadi replied. We've detected life signs on the outpost. Your current strategy is allowing the attackers to systematically destroy the station and everyone on it. We are following Council protocols, Ithlar insisted. We've established containment and requested diplomatic intervention. Aggressive response would violate our principles off. Those principles won't help the people dying right now, Ahmadi interrupted. We're moving to provide immediate humanitarian assistance. Before the Thorian could object further, Ahmadi cut the connection. Tactical, deploy defensive drones in a screen formation. Medical, prepare for casualties. Helm, take us in. The Sentinel surged forward, cutting through the perimeter established by the cautious Council vessels. As they approached, the attacker ships, which the crew had begun referring to as Greshlak, based on the guttural transmissions they broadcast, turned their attention to this new threat. They're locking weapons, reported Park. Countermeasures active, Ahmadi ordered calmly. No direct fire unless absolutely necessary. What followed demonstrated the difference between Council and human approaches to conflict. While Council ships relied on defensive postures and gradual escalation protocols, the Sentinel executed a dynamic defense strategy. Autonomous drones absorbed and redirected enemy fire, while the ship maneuvered aggressively, deploying electronic countermeasures that confused the Greshlak targeting systems. When one Greshlak vessel pressed its attack, a precisely targeted EMP pulse from the Sentinel temporarily disabled its weapons without destroying the ship. The demonstration of force gave the other attackers pause. They're withdrawing from the station, Park announced. Regrouping at coordinates 227 Mark 89. Maintain defensive posture, ordered Ahmadi. Launch medical shuttles to the outpost. Priority evacuation of the wounded. For the next 3 hours, the Sentinel coordinated rescue operations, evacuating wounded Andari scientists, while continuing to deter the Greshlak vessels from resuming their attack. When Council reinforcements finally arrived with their diplomatic specialists, they found the situation stabilized, the immediate crisis averted. The political repercussions came swiftly. Ambassador Chen was summoned to an emergency session of the Security Council, where she faced the stern displeasure of several prominent members. Your vessel violated explicit protocols, stated Security Chief Rendera, her gelatinous form pulsing with agitation. Captain Ahmadi disregarded the command authority of the response fleet and engaged in unauthorized intervention. He saved 43 lives. Ilara replied evenly. Lives that would have been lost if Council protocols had been followed to the letter. That is not the point, insisted Rendera. The integrity of our response systems depends on unified action. If every species acted independently in crisis situations, if I may, interrupted Elder Kremok, who had become something of an unexpected advocate for humanity. Perhaps we should consider the results rather than just the process. Our preliminary analysis indicates these Greshlak represent a previously unknown species from beyond our charted territories. Their attack pattern suggests a concerning level of aggression and technological capability. The debate continued for hours, with Council representatives divided between those outraged by humanity's independent action and those quietly impressed by its effectiveness. In the end, a compromise was reached. Captain Ahmadi would receive a formal reprimand, but the incident would also trigger a review of Council emergency response protocols. As the session concluded, First Speaker Zorthal requested a private meeting with Ambassador Chen. In his personal chambers, away from the formal setting of the Council, his bioluminescence patterns shifted to a more candid configuration. You understand, Ambassador, that your species presents us with a considerable challenge, he began. Your evolutionary path has produced qualities that many Council species find unsettling. Our competitiveness, our readiness to act decisively, Ilara acknowledged. Your capacity for both creation and destruction, Zorthal clarified. Most Council species evolved in environments where cooperation offered the clearest path to survival. Your world bred competition, conflict, and as a result, innovation, adaptability, and resilience, Ilara finished. Different paths, First Speaker. Zorthal's patterns shifted in what Ilara had come to recognize as thoughtful consideration. Indeed, and perhaps complementary ones, the Council has maintained peace across 15 star systems for millennia, but we have become rigid in our thinking. The Greshlak incursion revealed vulnerabilities in our response protocols that we had not recognized. Humanity doesn't seek to disrupt your peaceful order, Ilara assured him. We value what you've built, but we can contribute strengths that complement your own. Your defensive technologies alone represent significant advancements, Zorthal admitted, and your tactical approaches, while more direct than our preferences, demonstrated undeniable effectiveness. A balanced approach might serve us all, suggested Ilara. Council wisdom guiding human initiative. Zorthal's bioluminescence brightened. An intriguing concept. I will propose a joint committee to explore integration of human emergency response techniques into Council protocols. Limited, of course, and closely monitored. A beginning, Ilara agreed. As she returned to the Terran embassy, Ilara reflected on humanity's unique position. They had entered the galactic community not as supplicants, but as partners, bringing capabilities and perspectives that the Council had never possessed. Their path forward would require patience and diplomacy, helping their new allies understand that humanity's competitive nature and readiness for conflict did not make them a threat, but rather a valuable ally in a universe that might not always respond to peaceful overtures. The Greshlak incident had provided an unexpected opportunity to demonstrate this value. Other tests would surely follow as humanity found its place among the stars. But for now, they had begun to bridge the gap between such different evolutionary paths, proving that diversity of approach could strengthen the whole, that competition and cooperation were not opposing forces, but complementary strategies in the complex dance of cosmic civilization. In the observation lounge of the Terran embassy, Ilara watched the twin suns of Harmonium setting beyond the elegant spires of the Council city. Humanity had prepared in silence for generations, uncertain of their welcome among the stars. Now they have found their voice, and perhaps in time, their home in the greater community of sentient beings.